into the quiet of her room. With that thought, Bertie sat up in the bed. Again, every part of her felt sluggish, as if the world was just trudging along on some damaged movie reel. She turned so that her legs were dangling off the bed. For endless moments, she just sat there, hands in her lap, nightgown twisted round her upper thighs, and bare feet resting on the plush beige carpet. Her eyes blinked, as if trying to focus, attempting to see what. She had no clue, because it was so dark in the room. Or perhaps it wasn't quite that dark. The automatic blinds on the 2 windows across the room had been lowered, as they always were, around 6 in the evening. But sometimes, when the moon was at its brightest, slashes of light would seep inside to cut across the floor. She didn't see any tonight. She did, however, see the dim glow on the floor that came from her ensuite bathroom. "Suri," she murmured. That girl had decided Bertie needed a nightlight, as if she were a toddler who was afraid of the dark. In protest, Bertie closed the bathroom door every night after she went in for the last time before she climbed into bed. She didn't need a nightlight. She knew where the bathroom was and how to get there. How dare that little spitfire of a great niece think otherwise? But Suri was a good girl. She'd been taking care of Bertie for the 3 years since Maxine's death. Bertie had called herself sticking around to help her nephew, Gabe's kids, after they'd lost their mother. Since Gabe and Maxine had been the only members of the family to venture over the pond and start their lives here in London, once the 2 of them are gone, the kids would have been all alone. Sure, they were all adults, getting older every day and starting their own families now, with the exception of Suri, because that girl still needed to find her way. But Bertie had felt like they needed her. Turns out, she'd needed them right back. Not that she was going to tell any of them that, especially not now. She shook her head at the heavy thoughts that always found their way back to the forefront of her mind. In the last year or 2, it was like they'd been pushing their way to the front of the line, yelling in her head that they would not be silenced. Not this time. "Damn it," she muttered, and closed her eyes. It was 3 years ago, when she and Suri had ended up in the Cotswolds at Donovan Manor, because some lunatic had tried to burn down the flat where she and Suri had been staying, with the 2 of them still inside. Rourke and Tamika, who he wasn't married to at the time, had been staying at the manor as well. Just another time that things had started to go haywire in her family. A couple years before that, Dane's wife, Zara, had gotten herself, and subsequently them, into a dangerous bind when she was trying to find her sister. And then the mess with a man from Tamika's parents' past had kicked off. At the time, Bertie had been frustrated because Gabe's kids were already dealing with grief. They didn't need anything else, especially not someone trying to kill them. But such was life at that time. She hadn't expected to see him at the manor, hadn't thought about that name in a very long time. But there he was, with eyes that sparked quick memories in Bertie's mind. Memories that, as always, she dashed away. Now, though, as she sat on that bed with tears burning her eyes, she realized she should have paid more attention 3 years ago. She should have done something she'd sworn she would never do. Maybe then all that was happening to her family now wouldn't be happening. It was the morning after the incident at the flat, and her legs still ached a little from the fast moving she'd had to do to get out of the building after the explosion. Somebody had screamed something about structural damage and fire spreading. Who the hell knew? Suri had come in there yipping and yelling, and she'd just had enough time to grab the bag she always kept ready and get to moving. Now she was hungry. She went directly to the seat at the head of the table and sat down like she belonged there. Well, as the oldest living member of their family here at the moment, she did belong at the head of the table. "Now this is more like it," she said, as she took the white linen napkin from the table, snapped it open, and set it in her lap. Moments after everyone was seated, the housekeeper she'd been introduced to last night, named Dorianne, came in to announce, "The buffet is open."